Operating Systems and Firewalls, Assignment 1, CYBR 4220 by Daniel Taylor. Hardening is a pretty important aspect in the cybersecurity world. Here are a couple of best practices. You should never be utilizing the same credentials to administrate the server that you use on a day-to-day basis to do things like check email and web browse. This keeps the admin account from being exposed to those malicious actors. You should install all security patches and monthly updates as soon as they become available to ensure the system has all the necessary vulnerabilities patched. You should also monitor the OS's logging software and utilize it to record any changes to the server as well as any logins from all users, not just the administrators. This can help limit any kind of, access by someone who probably shouldn't have been logged into the system that we didn't realize had access. Number 4, we can utilize two-factor authentication. Admins can utilize two-factor authentication to help protect the system from unauthorized logins. This can consist of anything from biometrics to security card scanning to third-party applications like Duo Mobile. That's what we use to sign in to D2L. Here's some things we should avoid when we're hardening the system. We should never disable the user account control. We should always have the slider all the way up, if that's possible. It means you'll always be prompted for your password when anything is attempting to install itself. And while that can be annoying, it can also save the system from being accessed by a bad actor when something's being installed without our knowledge. Don't install the unnecessary roles. When you're setting up a Linux server, there's plenty of roles that we can install that we're not going to use. Same thing for a Windows server. And installing these roles, they could present unnecessary downtime or possibly allow an attacker to gain entry via a weak part of the system. Don't install any third-party software that's not required. Installing unneeded software like Firefox, Java, or Adobe, or any other third-party application could create a weak point in the server security and allow an attacker to gain entry. These programs generally aren't updated as quickly as Microsoft updates their actual OS, or Linux for that matter. These vulnerabilities are always a top priority for the OS. So we'll start with Server 2019 and hardening it. Out of the box, Windows Server 2019 has a robust amount of hardening compared to its predecessors. It removes all the Xbox and unneeded Microsoft integrations that Windows 10 would have and other third-party security solutions, allowing for a more streamlined install. It also has an advantage for more novice administrators over a Linux-based server since it has a GUI built in. This can be helpful for people who are just starting out, students or the like. 3 ways we can harden Windows Server 2019 specifically. The first way is utilizing LAPS. One way we can quickly harden our Windows-based server is to employ LAPS, or Local Administrator Password Solution. This is a tool for Active Directory that periodically sets each system's local admin account password to a new random value, and it'll store them in the registry. This could be accessed with the PowerShell via specific accounts that would have access to that and set up in LAPS. The second way we can utilize Windows Defender Credential Guard. Windows Defender Credential Guard leverages in-box virtualization-based security to isolate credentials and other secure data by running software in a virtualized container that is separate from the OS. This means that any attackers that do gain access to the OS cannot sniff for passwords input into software running in the container. It essentially creates a barrier that they can't see, or a wall that they can't see into. The third way we can harden the Windows Server system is to utilize Windows Defender Exploit Guard. This has many aspects that can control unauthorized access to or from a system, but in a nutshell, it utilizes Windows Intelligence Security Graph to look for malware and other activities that correlate with a malware attack and stops them from progressing. It's essentially an AI system that Microsoft utilizes to look for the correlations that malware causes before the malware hits and stops those correlations on the end user side. Moving on to Ubuntu server. Out of the box, the Ubuntu server is fairly basic and doesn't have many utilities that could be utilized as an attack vector, but you have the ability to install them in the install. It also has an advantage over a Windows-based server since it has no GUI built in. It has much less overhead and takes much less system resources. Also, being a long-term service release ensures the server stability for many years, and Ubuntu has a great track record with system stability. There are 3 ways we can harden specifically the Ubuntu server. We can verify that only the root account has a UUID of 0. Accounts with UUIDs of 0 have unlimited power in the security aspect. This means that if the account was compromised, the whole system could be influenced and changed. Instead, admins should utilize the sudo command to run commands as the root user by entering their password. Number 2, we can verify the IP tables. We'll also speak about these later on, but IP tables are the firewall for the Ubuntu server. One way we can harden the server is ensuring that only the needed ports are open, and that will dramatically secure the system from an attack. We should always fully patch our server and apply all the monthly security patches to create a window of time each month where the server will apply the needed updates. Alright, and moving on to Windows Firewall.